If I asked you what Bruce McLaren, Eddie Jordan, and Gene Haas all have in common, what would you say? Well, their surnames are a bit of a giveaway. All three of these guys started their own Formula One teams completely from scratch. Now, when it comes to starting your own Formula One team, there are two different ways you can go around it, and they are drastically different financially. One is to buy an existing team, which would include the factory, employees, and other facilities. Or you can start your own team completely from scratch, which unsurprisingly is massively more expensive. But let's be honest, just buying an existing team is a bit boring, so let me show you how to start one from the ground up. Now, for anyone that knows anything about F1, money is the name of the game, and the more you spend, the more successful you are. But for this hypothetical team, they would be competing at the back of the grid like most new F1 teams do. Now, for those billionaires out there watching that genuinely have the money to start their own team, please don't take this video as a cue to do so. There's an old saying in motorsport, the quickest way to become a millionaire is to be a billionaire and start a Formula One team. So don't go into it expecting to get rich, because chances are you'll be bankrupt instead. Right, well, with that little disclaimer out of the way, let me show you how to start your own Formula One team from the ground up. Well, as you'd expect, it is quite a difficult and complicated process. So I've simplified it by splitting everything you need into 4 categories. Finances, so basically the money side of things. Capital, which are the various facilities and equipment. Labour, which is basically the employees of the team. And finally, operations, which is everything you need day to day, race to race. Right, so without further ado, let's jump straight into the first and most important aspect, the finances. Well, I've said it 20 times already, but I will say it again. Without money, and I'm talking at least 9 figures, you have zero hope of starting an F1 team. Let's look at Haas F1 for an example. For a team that's been squabbling at the rear end of the grid for a few years now, they spend approximately $150 million every year. Money is so crucial for their survival as a team that they were forced to sign this guy as one of their drivers. So you get the idea, money is crucial. But how do you go about sorting out the checkbooks for an F1 team? Well, firstly, you need initial investment, and this can either come out of your own pocket, providing you have tens, possibly hundreds of millions to spare, or you can source individual investors to contribute to starting the team. However, due to the fact it's counterintuitive to make a profit in F1, it's not the best investment for people to make. But gathering together a serious amount of cash is only half the battle. You also need sponsors. As I explained in my Economics of F1 Sponsors video, they are crucial to keeping an F1 team afloat, seeing as they contribute to at least half a team's income. Just take a look at Eddie Jordan starting Jordan Grand Prix back in 1991. If he never secured that sponsor money from 7up, the team would have failed. But even if you do sort out both the hefty amount of cash and solid sponsors, as of the new Concord agreement this year, you will have to pay $200 million as a joining fee to Formula One. Well, for argument's sake, let's say money isn't an issue. So what do you actually spend that money on to get the team up and running? Well, this brings me to capital, and I've split it into 3 groups. The first one is buying or building the various facilities that you need. I'm talking a factory, wind tunnel, offices, race control, and if you're really splashing the cash, a private test track. Then you have to buy the various things to fill those facilities, such as computers and computer softwares, desks, chairs, tables, a canteen, etc, etc. But at this point, you may have a factory with desks and chairs, but there's no way you can build a car. Now, that's where the machinery and production equipment comes in. This consists of things like 3D printers, CNC machinery, and other heavy equipment used to produce the thousands of components that go into an F1 car. And the amount of components you do produce in-house is up to you. Looking at Haas, they've been able to survive because they've bought a lot of components rather than building it themselves. Components such as the engine, gearbox, chassis, and all other listed parts under the regulations are bought from both Ferrari and Dallara. And this allows Haas to save millions rather than building the parts themselves, which incurs significant research and development costs. And so, if you are looking to cut some corners, I would recommend following a similar approach. Right, well, we have the money and the facilities, but unless you're planning to run the whole team by yourself, you need labour, or otherwise known as employees. Well, in a Formula 1 team, obviously the amount of employees depends heavily on the amount of money being put in. For example, at Mercedes, there are 1,400 people in total, whereas at Haas, there are just under 250, according to some sources. But how are the employees broken down in terms of their roles? Well, I've split it into 5 categories. Technical roles, which are basically the people that design a lot of the parts on computer softwares such as CAD. Then, once they design the component digitally, they send over the information to the people in operations roles. Now, these guys are basically the ones that get their hands dirty actually manufacturing the components, whether it be by welding, operating a CNC machine, or managing the electronics. Then, once the car is designed and built at the factory, it is sent off to the racetracks along with those working in trackside roles or race roles. This includes the strategists, pit crew, trackside engineers, photographers. All in all, there are around 50 to 75 people per team at any race weekend. Then, there are the business roles, which are just as important for a Formula 1 team as they organise the day-to-day operations of the team. Business roles include those working in marketing, human resources, public relations, logistics, accounting, all those administrative roles that we don't really acknowledge. Then finally, we have the directors and the drivers. These are the public figures such as Toto Wolff and Lewis Hamilton that we know very well. But breaking down the director roles, you have a team boss, a technical director, commercial director, chief of aerodynamics, chief of R&D, chief designer, and then of course 2 phenomenal drivers. Hopefully. All in all, it's a lot of people to hire and pay. Now finally, the last category to think about when setting up a Formula 1 team is the operations. By this, I mean everything you need to allow the team to travel to every race and set up the various mobile facilities. This includes the freight costs to transport all the equipment to the races, be it by road, air or sea. Then you've got the actual mobile facilities such as the motorhome, pit wall, computers and other tech needed for trackside operations. And then you also have to factor in the travel costs for those 50 to 75 employees that work at the race weekend. Now, the actual logistics of a Formula 1 team is extremely complicated, so you will need to factor in for things going wrong every so often, be it a missed flight or a lost piece of freight. And so, there you have it. If you're wanting to start your own F1 team, those are all the things you need to think about. And by watching this video, you will realise that it's no small feat by any measure. You will need a colossal amount of cash, state-of-the-art equipment, a few hundred employees, and a serious dose of stupidity to even get a team in the sport. The real drama and suffering begins when you actually begin racing. But I think showing you how to run a Formula 1 team will have to be saved for another video. You may need to speak to Toto about that one. So, what do you think? If you had a cool $350 million plus in the bank hanging around, would you dive into the world of Formula 1? I'd love to know what you think, so comment that down below, and as always, make sure to like, subscribe, and smash that notification bell to be reminded of any new videos.